my mom. You know, families have memes, and one of my family memes was my mom saying, "You boys take that roughhousing outside." Roughhousing. You know, for me, playing is the way life balances itself, because it's pretty heavy. You gotta admit, life's pretty heavy, especially if you stay tuned in. And like for me, playing music, it's like a fountain of youth. A fountain of youth. So this is Red Hawk coming to you from the deep end, and today we're playing. If you want to go to some previous episodes where we talked about play and playfulness, number 182 and 211. But playing is someplace you don't just play one time and then don't come back. You know, one of my favorite game shows on TV is Jeopardy. I just love that. It's amazing how sometimes on a board I'll know so much and feel so good, and on other times I'll know squat. Playing Legos with my grandkid. Whew, talk about joyful. Maslow used to say, play is voluntary regression in the name of the ego. And we know how important playing is for our children as it contributes to cognitive growth, physical, social, and emotional well-being, imaginations, and creativity. It's important. It's integral. But I'm going to not just suggest, but I'm going to state right out imperatively, play is so important for adults as well. Play is in a close-up relationship with joy. Our last podcast was on joy, and I continue to come back to that because I'm a joyful person, and sometimes I feel guilty about feeling joyful. But play is a way, it's just one of the most profound teachers. It teaches us to tolerate risk. We all play to win, but play also teaches us how to lose. And how to lose is an expression of grace. It allows us to learn to be graceful, even in those moments that don't feel very graceful to us. With play, we learn how to court, to keep house, to cuddle, and to put our dolly to bed. And we learn how to exercise our brain without consequences. And I think that's an important piece. With all a child has to do to learn, think about how awful it would be if there was no joy in play, if it was all just learning. Thank God that play is the fundamental context of learning, at least for the first 5 years of our life. Play seems to help us develop the talents we were born with and also face some of the talents we weren't born with, to lift them up. Now, I'll be honest, I've never been really good at learning the piano and reading music, but I'll be damned if you can keep me away from a piano. Once I learned how to do chords, you couldn't keep me away. And it was something my bandmaster taught me when I was in the Coast Guard Band. It's just an amazing piece in my life. Now, like joy, and this is an imperative, it's something we can say that's sure. Play is hardwired into our brains. Our neurological hardwiring has play right in the midst of it. And what I like about just about all play is it's married to laughter. It's really hard. If you're playing chess and you're doing some furrowed brow play, that's one thing. But to me, there's this laughter component that is really just amazing. Play, it reinforces and creates these social bondings. It sets the parameters for feeling safe. And we need to feel safe before we can cut loose and play. And of course, there are some things that get in the way of playing: fear, sadness, hunger, anger. You go to any of the defense mechanisms of Freud, from denial to intellectualization to all of those. They get in the way of true play. It's an amazing thing. And I want us to see this, that all mammals, we do rough and tumble play. roughhousing, as my mom used to say, and I'm reminiscing now of roughhousing with my brother, because we could recreate a fake fight better than anything you saw on TV. I mean, we could flip each other. It was awesome. It drove my mom crazy. Again, take it outside, boys. Rough play eventually, though, is replaced by sports and singing. And I've shared the story the first time I sang in a choir and we hit those harmonies. I turned to the person next to me and went, "Is this legal?" Wow, did it feel good? It was joy, man. And of course, one of my favorite ways of playing, especially when I was young, was dancing. Man, being in high school and dancing with your girlfriend to a slow tune, joy, bliss, happiness. It was going to last forever, right? We learn, I think, best by playing. But one of the things that just about all playing needs is another person. Maybe a pet. I play with my dog. I like that. It's not the same, but it is relational. And finally, I just want to make clear, this podcast is a form of play for me. It's not physical, but it is intellectual play, and it's very helpful in keeping my cognitive faculties maybe engaged, if not up to snuff. So I just want to say playing for adults is integral to health and wholeness. Relieves stress, enhances relationships, boosts physical health. It improves brain function. We know that. It keeps your feelings young and energetic. It deepens our social skills. It creates better problem-solving skills. It stimulates creativity. It teaches cooperation with others. It can heal emotional wounds. All of these things and more. And I want to hook them into our last podcast of joy, because if play isn't hooked in with joy, what the heck, So I want us to each look for ways to play, to laugh, to be in relationship, because without play, we will not be in a balanced relationship, a balanced life, one that is leading us to more health and wholeness. And I think that's the whole journey. Even as I get old and things start going wrong, it's still about health and wholeness, how to get the best out of this instrument that is me, and how to also allow this best instrument that is me to engage in a way that engenders laughter, that engenders relationship. I think those are so important. So I just gave my spiel on play, and it was fun playing with these ideas of play. So I'm going to turn it over to go to Bob Hayes, who is in Florida, and my other cohorts is Marianne Rudis, who's in Spokane Valley. Again, my name's Red Hawk. I'm coming to you from Spokane, Washington. So, Bob, what say ye on play?
Well, I have to echo how important it is. Sociologists even view it as an essential first step in the development of our self-concept. If you were absolutely correct, all mammals play to some degree, and it's not always just roughhousing. There's all sorts of degrees of play, and we see in children that they begin to play before they enter what's called the game stage, where rules are established. Before they are able to understand rules, they make their own rules up. There's interesting studies that they call it parallel play, where you have a bunch of young toddlers in the sandbox, and they're all playing their own game. And none of them know what the other one is all about, but they're all playing and they're all having fun, and they're all incorporating each other into their own individual play. And then later, as they get older, 3, 4, 5 years old, they begin to learn rules and learn to play games. But it is essential, and it's a fundamental part of our development. As you say, we're wired for it. And it's also very important tool in learning. I spent my career developing instructional simulations for the Department of Defense. Now you would say, well, that doesn't sound like play. That sounds like pretty serious stuff. But the thing is, we found that teams who engaged in instructional simulations, if they were designed so that they were engendering a fun aspect in addition to the seriousness of it all, that they were much more effective. And it's where we can find that joyful aspect in anything we do, when we cast it in the form of play, that makes it a lot more palatable, a lot more acceptable, and a lot better at teaching us a lot of important skills.
Amen. Marianne, what say you on this?
Well, I think that one of the benefits of being able to view life as playful is that we can, life is, you said this in your opening, life is hard. And so how do we engage with life in a way that is enhancing and beneficial? And I think if we, there is so much stress put on adults, and Bob, you were talking about children in that sandbox, and in the beginning, there's no agenda, there's no winning and losing, there's just living life for life's sake. And I think that is something that we're striving now to kind of get back to, and play can lead us back there, that we are enjoying life for the sake of enjoying life. So it's kind of, when you don't have an agenda of, and as adults, we have to put that on ourselves. We have to go, okay, I'm going to do this so that this happens. But if we can look at our lives and even our work, that I'm going to do this and then see what happens. And it's just a small shift, but this is the step I want to take. It can make it more enjoyable, more playful. And the idea of humor and how important humor is for that pressure cooker, that can be, we can live so stressed out that everything is, everything has to have a certain outcome. And I think when we engage with life as playful, then we don't have to have that predetermined outcome. We can have an idea of what we want, but then being able to go with that flow and finding balance, right? You have to have both. You have to be able to laugh, but you also have, life can be serious, but it also can be playful. And this for me is playful, because I don't have a set agenda. I don't have anything in mind of what's going to come out of it, other than I want to see where it goes and I want to participate.
Amen. So. Bob, as you were talking, I kept thinking peekaboo. The first game, and Marianne, what you were saying, it made me think. Always sincere, and seldom serious. There's times to be serious, but it's not. I have a lot of pastor colleague friends. I guess acquaintances is a better word, and they walk around with a furrowed brow, and it's like, what the hell? Come on, loosen up. And another thing, Bob, you said, I go to my 5-year-old's t-ball games. They are only maybe 5% playing with each other. The rest, they're doing somersaults. They're wrestling with each other. If it's a dusty field, they're literally creating dust. They're going in little tiny circles, creating a thing. I always say we shouldn't name them pirates and this or that. We should call them the lackadaisials or the oblivions or something, because they're each in their own world. But that internal world, and this is one of the pieces of play that's so important, it creates cognitive connections. It starts, and this is where creativity and the imagination, every one of those kids, I think, what a trip it would be to get inside any one of those kids. What are the loops they're running that, are the context for what they're doing? And it's happening. It might not be conscious, but it's happening. And this is what I keep coming back to, that it's not just hardwired, but it's imperative. And I think that the thing about adult play is it has to be intentional. It doesn't just happen for us. We have to intend it. Thank God there's lots of groups around, from chess to bingo to podcasts like this, and getting together with other people like this. And I think we should do that. I think that's an important piece. So go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one brief little tweak about play. It's not that play doesn't have any rules. It's that play only has the rules of the internalized rules that the individual child makes up. It's not totally unstructured, and it's when they begin to share rules with other people that we get to games. So, and also, the idea, you hear professional sportsmen all the time say, well, I've lost the fun in the game. I've lost the ability to play like like I did when I was a kid, those kind of things. And that's so important, because we never lose that playfulness. We can sometimes bury it beneath too many rules and too much seriousness. And if we can peel back some of that and get back to those feelings that we had when we were kids, making our own rules and winning all the time. We always win our own play because we control those rules. It's when we begin to get competitive with each other that there's winners and losers. But if we can pull back a little from that and begin to get to that feeling of everybody wins if we're all playing together.
Yeah. And I think, go ahead, Marianne.
Well, I was just going to say, and I think what happens there too is, maybe you're all living by your own rules, but then you have people that emerge that want to impose their rules on others. And then you get into this leadership, and then you get into coercion, and you get into all of this other things. And then all of a sudden you're playing by somebody else's rules. And sometimes that can be joyful for some of us, and some of us are going to go, oh no, that's not going to work. And it's fascinating.
Well, and I want to say that one of the imperatives of play is feeling safe. And rules are there to be imposed to help us play within the parameters and feel safe. I think what you all are going into is dogma. At least it feels that way to me. I think when your life rules become dogmatic and they keep you from the imagination, that's an impediment for sure. But learning to play and seeing how important that is, I think that's one of the pieces in my life that has been difficult to keep balanced. And it's taken me a while and some forces from outside of me to pull me back into a sense of play, and that it's okay to not be as cognitively solid, to be as physically solid, to be all those things in order to play. Now, I'll be honest, I don't play football. I don't play. I probably would play softball, but the old people softball games start like at 8 in the morning, and there ain't no way I'm going to do that. I figure if everybody else is hobbling to the base, I could do that. Golf, I haven't played in a few years. I'm ready to play some golf. I have some of the best conversations with my kid out on the golf, and both of us suck really bad, which is good because we're pretty equal. Playing, it's important for us to intentionally keep at it. And I think that that's important. It's very easy. It was easy for me to just sit back. I don't think that is going to call forth a full life, myself and me. That's why this podcast is here. That's why I started playing music again. I hadn't played music in over 6 years, maybe a little piano. It's amazing how the world calls you back. So for those of you who don't have a life that's full of different kinds of playing, think about when you were a kid. What is it you really like to play? Now, regrettably, I went through this exercise, and what I liked to play was war. And it's like, all right, what am I going to do, get a paint gun? That one sounds really fun. But no, I'm not doing something like that. So
No, those hurt.
yeah, they hurt. And I just want our listeners to know that sometimes when I had the voiceless choir, I got all these donations of toys and stuff, and around Christmas we gave them to the kids, and the kids would get it, and the dads would get down on the floor. There was this one dad. I say, doesn't that toy interest you? And he goes, oh yeah. I go, why don't you get down and play with him? He goes, I'm an adult. And I went, what? He said, I'm an adult. I said, yeah, well, you need to get over that.
Well, I think one of the things that you're talking about too, Red Hawk, especially as we get older, every single person, most people that I talk to that have grandkids speak of that idea of how it's just absolutely this beautiful reigniting of this idea that of that childlike quality, and to be able to be re-engaged in youth without having to worry about, I have to discipline this child, I have to teach this child, I get to just play with this child. And I think it adds this beautiful dimension to getting older too, when you can have that experience.
Amen.
But I don't think you have to have grandkids to do that.
No.
Because I don't think that's going to happen in my world, but just to be able to kind of re-engage in the world in a playful way.
Yeah.
That it is a harsh, and you were talking earlier about that dogmatic piece, and there's fairness and justice, and we need to have agreed upon sets of behavior, and that you don't want that bully coming in and taking over. So how do you play with others and still keep things going well, cordial?
Yeah.
And not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really a skill that you have to learn. How do
Right.
you disengage from all of the ego stuff that gets in the way when you're engaging with others? And I would tweak Maslow's statement a little bit and say it's not just regression to support the ego; it's also regression in spite of the ego.
Yeah. And I want to say that, we take our grandkid to the library. We've gotten to know the library. Edie's better than I am. And some of the older people there, the volunteers, they're there to play. They want to be in the kids section. They want to be there when it's reading time, maybe be one of the readers. So there's all these different ways of inserting yourself in a playful way. And I think that's the whole key, at least for me, is finding ways to insert. Now, going to the library and hanging out is not my thing. I got to do something. I got to be interactive. But I will say my band is 3 grandmas, this old gray beard, and 2 young bucks. And, yesterday, one of the young bucks, not in the band, but another guy, called me and said, "Hey, can you get together?" So we got together for an hour and a half, and we had a great time talking. I just love hearing the ideas of younger people, and that's a playful piece for me. That's a place of where my own sense of play and my own cognitive growing edge kind of can meet. And I think that that's really important. And I'll be honest, I'm looking for other ways to be playful. I'm pretty playful in most parts of my life. I've been put down for that. But there's not a whole lot that calls me to be serious. I'm very serious about my empathy and what I feel. But mostly I'm sincere. And I think that that's what we have to approach play with. And something one of y'all said about, sports people saying it's not fun anymore. The woman who just beat the Jeopardy championship, every single time the camera came to her, she was smiling. And it wasn't any of the big ones from before. This was a woman who came up and beat them all. But she, some of the other contestants are up there with furrowed brows the whole time, and they're good. But there is something about her. My wife and I watch baseball, and you look at the faces like Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners. That guy is having fun. I mean, he is having fun. And Cal Raleigh, the catcher, he's having fun. He hit a grand slam walk-off win last night. Talk about glory. I want this attitude that we need in order to embrace the world fully, at least as fully as each of us are able to. I think to do that without a playful sense of it, playful loops going around, I think this is what comedians do. They take some of the worst scenarios in the world and they make them funny. And how do they do that? It's redemptive. Something's happening in the play of the mind that to me reminds me of this aspect. And Bob, I think you reiterated it very well, regression, not just in the name of the ego, but in spite of the ego, to overcome it, to recontextualize the very sense of who we think we are. And I think my grandson, he's having the hardest time learning how to lose. He can't see it. We watch BattleBots, and he always has to choose the one he's for. And when they lose, he just can barely handle it. It's really kind of funny. So, Bob, final comments on playing?
Well, it's not just your grandson. How many people jump on the bandwagon when their local team goes on a winning streak, but when they're losing, they don't want anything to do with them?
Yeah.
And it's
tell that to the White Sox.
it's part of our nature to want to be on the winning side, but it's also part of our nature to try and find ways to have fun with life. For me, this is the most playful thing I do, is kicking ideas between the three of us and spinning them around and saying, well, what if we look at it from this direction a little bit? And then, yeah, but wait a minute, let's look at it from this direction. And being able to do that, I find, is a very playful way to deal with all of these mystery questions that we're constantly trying to deal with. Play is the thing that not only makes us healthier, makes us happier, but is probably a way to extend our lives, because it helps us get rid of some of the stress and the anxieties that lead to all of the internal physical problems that we have. So the more we can learn to flip that play switch in any situation we find ourselves in, and try and find the humorous side of it, try and find ways to enjoy manipulating the way we're approaching the situation, I think it's a way that's going to be much more healthy for us.
Amen. Marianne, final comments?
I think there's a reason that cliche it has survived so long, that laughter is the best medicine, because it really does enhance our lives. And in any situation, it relieves the pressure of the seriousness and whatever you're facing. For me, I think play is about, well, it's enjoyment. And so if you can infuse enjoyment into your life, no matter what you're doing, and look at it as not a win or lose situation, but as just an enjoyable endeavor in order to kind of go to the next place that you're going in your life. I know that probably makes no sense, but it does in my brain. In my brain, it does, because that's kind of where I'm at right now, is figuring out, okay, how do I live these next years in pure enjoyment? Even though there are going to be tough things that happen, but I want to embrace life in all of its aspects. And we talked about joy last week. And joy is enjoyment, right? We're going to bring that into every aspect of our life, even the tough times.
Amen. And I want to say the N for enthusiasm, enjoyment means through. So joy through. By the way, enthusiasm means entheos, which means God through us, which I've always liked. Because people have always said I was enthusiastic, and I was going, well, is that good or bad? I don't know. So where do we go next? Actually, I'm going to tell you where we're going to go for the next few podcasts. Next week, we are going to relationships. They are the fundamental connecting point of the whole universe that made the whole universe happen. And we're part of this unbelievable matrix of relationships. Then, our next podcast after that is going to be family of origin. Talk about an icky mess. Holy moly. I've put this off for a long time because there has to be a confessional aspect to it. But we're going to family of origin. And I will say, my parents were very engaged. How we ended up like we all did, I'll be damned if I know. And then we're going to a podcast on change. Change. Because between relationships and family of origin, there's a call to change. I mean, big change. So, where to next? My friends, we are going to dive into the deep end of relationships and see how we are caught. No way to touch it without getting caught. Until then, blessings. This is The Deep End. I'm Red Hawk, and be well.